Can you still make a living as an author with only traditional publishing by not having to do any marketing of your own or worry about any of it? You just sit down and write and send your work off and you get to live off of it. Is that still possible? Well, today I'm going to show you guys the actual numbers, the actual amount of deals that are getting made for fiction authors who are going the traditional publishing route. And I want to say first and foremost that my goal here on this channel is to create a literary renaissance. And the numbers, in my opinion, are very bleak, but I don't want you to lose hope. If you are a writer and you care, I want us to view these numbers optimistically because it shows us that things aren't totally dead, that there still are opportunities for authors in any route they want to take, whether that's marketing their own stuff or not marketing their stuff. And even though we are in a dying industry, I do not believe that we are in an industry like the newspaper industry. There are billions of readers out there, billions of literate people. It's our job. It's the publishing house's job. It's the education system's job to activate them, though, and give them the love of reading. And if that happened, if hundreds of millions of new readers even just started reading 6 books a year instead of the 0 they are doing right now, thousands of new authors could go full time just by writing alone. And so today's numbers are from Publishers Marketplace, and they are dealing with fiction authors only. I don't know, and I don't really care on this channel about nonfiction or history books, which is nonfiction, or any of that. We're focusing on fiction right now. And the numbers we are dealing with are from 2024, which is a good measure because that was only 6 months ago. So first on the table is over 166 deals, because obviously not everything is reported, but not too many are missed. So it's not wildly different than this. At least 166 deals generated over 6 figures. And so 166 fiction authors, and this is all genres, from smut to literary fiction, got at least $100,000 or a $100,000 advance for their book. And these numbers do not include royalties, which can add up over time, especially if you are successful. And guys, really fast, I just started a second channel called The Literary Renaissance that is 100% dedicated to helping you guys become full-time authors, because my dream is to create a class of thousands of transformative authors that are doing it full time. Because right now, as you're seeing, we only have a couple hundred at most. And so I will put the link down below if you guys are interested. I'm going to be diving deep into everything related to building an audience and getting people to read your book over there. And the first video I wrote is fire, is the most foundational and important information that you will find nowhere else online in terms of how to get people to go read your novel. Anyway, back to the video. And so the striking thing about this is that 166, you guys, seems kind of low, because in 2024, people like Haruki Murakami and others published books, which obviously went over $100,000. And when I think of this 166 deals, we really have to ask ourselves, how many of those were literary fiction? I know at least Murakami was. I can only guess that the number would have to be under 25 with the amount of airplane thrillers and Stephen King books and all that type of stuff that's out there. I'm assuming that's the majority of this, and I can't parse through those numbers and figure it out. And so for authors like many of you who are listening to this, who are trying to write something transformative and really good, and it isn't super genre, then you are competing with everyone in the world, millions of writers for 25 deals. And the reason why these numbers matter is that to write a book that's really good, and a really good book doesn't mean that you're going to get $100,000. Many bad books get that amount. But you are competing with people that don't have jobs, don't have kids, don't have wives or husbands, and they are putting everything, and they have been putting everything into this. And what's interesting about that is that $100,000, maybe if you have a studio apartment and you live in Iowa or Tucson, I have a buddy that pays $300 a month in rent right now because he has a bunch of roommates. That could be huge. That you could live on that for years. But for many of us with the financial ties that we have, that number will at most only last us a couple years. And that's important because you can't write a book every 6 months. And more importantly, publishing houses don't push books out every 6 months or every year. When you send your work off, there is a turnaround rate that takes a while for them to get it out. But the reason that some of you guys should remain hopeful is that many of you work jobs, have families, and are still grinding. And occasionally, someone who is doing all that does break through. And imagine if you kept your job and everything was the same, but someone just handed you $100,000. And if your book is going to generate over $100,000, or at least that's what they're predicting, then that means they're going to really press that book. You're going to go on a tour. There's going to be campaigns. And if you set something up like a Substack or something like that, or you are open to doing writing workshops and working with universities, if your book is that popular and you're one of the few literary fiction people, then if you play your cards right, then you can kind of splinter into other opportunities. And that's how you will actually sustain yourself. And so that's something I don't talk about very often on this channel because I focus more on the self-publishing side. But which is really important is that if you get a good book deal or get your literary fiction book out there and it has the Random House symbol on it, which gives you the social credibility, then that first and foremost means that people are actually going to read it, which is awesome. But people in positions of power that could provide you jobs and opportunities. My plan one day with my own writing and what I'm doing here is I'm sure I'll be making over 6 figures a year. I know I will be years down the road, but I won't be getting calls from, the MFA program at the University of South Carolina to come because there is this old order, this old system that says that only traditionally published novelists can have these types of opportunities unless you are just this total outlier. And so the next number I think is even more interesting than the first. And that is that 74 debut authors got deals over $50,000. And once again, this is including all the book talk people, all the fantasy writers, all the smut writers. But 74 new authors got at least $50,000. And so for many of us, this is the category that we are going to be falling into. Once again, looking at those numbers, there's probably only a handful who are writing the type of literature that you and I are writing. But there is something to be really optimistic about because I first heard about these numbers from a commenter named Vinny Steary. And I went and verified the numbers over on Publishers Marketplace with the Day Pass. You can go buy a Day Pass over there and kind of get a feel for the industry. And he wrote these numbers, which are true, that 11 of those first-time authors we were just talking about got a very nice deal, 50 to 100,000. 20 of them got a good deal, 100 to 250. 21 of them got a significant deal, 250 to 500. 17 of them got major deals, 500,000 to $1 million, and 4 of them got 7-figure deals right off the bat, over $1 million. And this is pretty big because the median number of that group is somewhere between $200,000 and $300,000. That if you can get over that hump and get into this pool of people who make over $50,000 on their fiction book deal, it's a lot easier. It gets even easier to just start jumping up the ranks because at the bottom of the pool, 97% of books or fiction books that are published by the top 8 publishers sell less than 5,000 copies, which means that you will make less than $10,000 total for your book over its lifetime. So 97% of people who try to get traditionally published and do will make almost nothing. But then there's this other group that has much more scalability. And what we should be optimistic about also is that with ebook, just in the US alone, between ebook and print books, over 1 billion units are sold per year. And a lot of those numbers are fluff because, like, for instance, my school buys at least 100 books a year, and they're always the same books. The Great Gatsby, Shakespeare, like yada, yada, yada. They're not buying books from new authors. Libraries, very similar. University libraries, they all get a catalog and they buy all the same things a lot of the time. And then there are a couple outliers. University students, textbooks, cookbooks, technical manuals. Like, there's a lot, but $1 billion book sales in one country is immense. And what that should signal to you guys is that the market is here and there is still confidence with and results from publishers to know that one book can generate easily $50,000. And so why I think that is so important is that you can look at what you are doing as being a mini publishing house. that if you were one of those books that say makes $70,000, what would end up happening is that you would have a cover designer that would probably cost you around 50 or excuse me, $500 to $1,000 to purchase independently for similar quality. You'd have someone format the book, which would cost a couple $100 independently. Then you'd have someone edit the book, which would cost thousands of dollars. But what I like to tell authors is that, and there's so many people that get triggered by this because I was once someone without money, and I understand that. And sometimes you just have to make it work. But a book is you investing in yourself and your legacy. And obviously, you can update it later. You can just post a book with your own custom cover and your own editing, and you can be successful, and that's cool. But if you really do feel like you have a decent story and you package it the right way, then the only problem you need to figure out is how to sell 10,000 of those books. And that may sound crazy, and it is crazy. But the best part is that if you figure out how to sell 10,000 books, let's say you write No Country for Old Men, or this is your novel, right? If you figure out how to sell 10,000 of these, the marketing channels, the distribution channels, the experience, everything that you learn will make it 1,000 times easier the next time. It will basically do itself the next time. And so what we have right now is an ignorance gap or a skill gap. That if your book, let's say, gets the $50,000 advanced treatment from Random House, it gets the packaging, but then there are a group of people who have laid out the distribution. They've made the calls. They've figured out the marketing, the descriptions, online ads, Goodreads giveaways, all of that. And they are experienced in that. But I'm going to tell you that those people aren't gods. And a lot of them actually really suck at their job. That's why the book industry is dying, guys. The book industry is dying because many people at these publishing houses have no idea what the fuck they are doing. Were titans and ran a monopoly and used their credibility for so long, and their self-publishing didn't exist. It was the same as the music industry. And now that there's competition, in other forms of entertainment and online, they can't do anything. And because many of these corporations have kind of just lagged and lulled and don't hire on the basis of meritocracy, you aren't that far away just through passive study and work in your free time to getting to the level of where they are at. We've seen countless genre fiction authors do it. But what I've realized is that we just haven't had the playbook or the effort in the literary fiction world, which does sell a lot of books. You guys don't know how many copies of John Steinbeck and Tolstoy and all these other authors sell every single year. People are reading classic literature almost at the rate they're reading transformative literature. And so our genre compatriots have surpassed in many cases while writing their work and putting a ton of time into it and working jobs and having a family, the minds at publishing houses. We have not yet. This is an us problem, not a world problem, not a TikTok or a DEI problem. This is our problem. It's also an us problem because I have known, and this is one of the things that going to university taught me, I should say 5 to 7 authors, fiction authors, who got deals with major publishing houses. They have Macmillan or Knopf or whatever on the side of their novel. And they got to go on NPR or some of these other places and do little interviews, get reviews in semi-major magazines or newspapers, all through networking. They were good writers. They had polished writing and they were good. They weren't just some random ass person who called themselves a writer. They put the deep work in. They spent thousands of real novel hours on their novels. They went to school for writing. They were in it. They were good, but they weren't something crazy. But they got there through pure networking. I'd be like, hey, what are you doing this weekend? I'm flying to Ohio for what? For some event. And they just got to know everybody. They got to know the best literary agents, because what's crazy about a literary agent is that, once again, this is what's wild. If you put money into this, if you put time and effort, and I'll blow some minds here. If you don't have money, you can figure out how to make more money. You can get a better job. If you want to be a writer, you don't have to be this artiste manqué and cry. You can figure out, okay, well, if this is what I need to do, well, maybe I'll put a little bit more effort in and make the extra $10,000 I need to go to these networking events. And then it will pay you back in the long run. But literary agents, their job is to sell your book. And there are plenty of scammy ones out there. Plenty of people that will make you pay them to read their stuff, and they don't even care. They don't even read it. But then there are other people who are savants. And one of the only ways you can meet them is not by going someplace and meeting them, but by meeting someone else who will lead you on a chain to meeting them. And then when you do meet them and you do connect with them, they will actually read and understand what you are doing. And they'll make it their mission because they're taking a cut to get you a big deal. That's something that other people do not realize. That a lot of those deals I just said are from, a lot of the time, obviously there are outliers, the same kind of group of agents. They know how to get the big deals. They know how to get it done. And so for people who don't like to market or spend their time on social media, you can literally fly places and meet people and talk to people. And if you can't do that either, then you can't really do anything. Then you're just a blob floating around. And hopefully, I pray that you were one of those few deals that gets done. But there are guaranteed paths. There are paths in the self-published industry or the traditionally published industry for you to make it as an author and have people read your work. But the question is, are you ready to step into the shoes of being an author? We love to look at the outliers, the random people who didn't have to do it, but many people had to grind. Many people had to go find literary agents and be poor or change who they were to be able to become an author. And if you complain, you're like, I don't want to market or I don't want to do this. You know how many times you've changed who you were? Think about how much you've had to change who you were to work the job you're at right now. If you hate your job right now, you've changed from someone who had an idealistic look at the world and had dreams, and you trashed all of them to work a fucking job that doesn't care about you, around people who don't care about you for no reason other than to just increase the GDP. That's it. That change from being someone with wonder and dreams to what you are now, most likely, was 20 times harder, 20 times more painful than what it would take to become a person who could figure out how to sell 10,000 books, or someone who can figure out how to convince someone to sell their book to someone who will sell a ton of copies. And so that is the word, everyone. There are opportunities out there. There are readers out there. The literary renaissance is about enough of us taking this into our own hands and activating millions of readers. What if 10 million readers in America, 10 million people, got trust back in new literature, like recent books? And instead of reading Dostoevsky or Moby Dick, they bought 5 books a year. What if we activated 10 million people and they all bought 5 books a year that are like from new authors? That's 50 million more books being sold. And if we look at, like, we'll just say Amazon print on demand royalty rates, that's about $5 a book. So that's $250 million for literary fiction authors to float around and be distributed. And so this is what I realized with writing. I could focus on selling books and doing these things, but I was like, wait, if I actually care about books, if I care about something bigger than me, which is writers as a collective, I care about you guys, I care about the future of literature, then I need to be here trying to get that number up to 10 million. Because if we convince 10 million people to buy 5 books a year from new literary fiction authors, that would automatically create 5,000 full-time authors making more than $50,000 a year. And then, like I said, this money from Substack and other things that you could do to monetize would probably take that number even higher than 50,000 and more than 5,000 people. And how would our world be a better place if there were 5,000 new literary fiction authors that could live? How many exist right now? Like we just saw, a handful. And so if you want to think about this in the long run and play the long game and maybe serve something higher than yourself, if we can reach that goal of 10 million people, we will create a new class of writers who can actually live without university help, without the government help, or without government grants, That's the goal. Think about it. Be about it. Do it. Figure it out. We need you. If everyone listening to this, we could just reverse engineer the math. Like, I have 35,000 subscribers. Let's call it 50,000. Well, if 50,000 people all woke up 5,000 different people, if 50,000 people all woke up 200 people, that reality would exist. Everyone on their free time could find and wake up 200 new readers. That's all it is, everybody. 200 people. But people don't have the vision. People don't see our opportunity. People don't understand what other industries did to elevate themselves. And I'll save that discussion for a different day, but I want to thank each and every one of you guys for being here. And if you choose to do the work, then I am a fan of yours, and you will always have my support. I will see you guys in the next video.